My name is Len Niebo. I'm the Chief Information Officer at the Citadel Military College in Charleston, South Carolina. My role at the Citadel in regards to data strategy really revolves around ensuring that all our stakeholders and our leadership team has the capability to parse out data and really look at it from a holistic point of view, to get a 5,000-foot view of what is the Citadel enrollment, how we schedule classes and that sort of thing. So it's really, my job as a CIO, I believe, is really about enablement of people to be able to do their jobs more efficiently and more effectively. So I've been at the Citadel now 4 years. Challenges when I first came on board was really revolved around data governance and a lack of a formal process of data governance. So that was step number one of let's just get everything lined up and know what data we have, and identify those data points, and then move forward to then aggregating and disaggregating data, and then also moving on to actual reporting of that data. For a while, there was a definite split amongst different areas of the Citadel based on like enrollment numbers. One team would say one number, another team would say another number, and we could never really agree on what that number was of how many students we had enrolled at the Citadel, which seems like just such a basic question, but it was it was an 18-month really a journey to get to a point where we have institutional reporting, registrar's office, and IT focused on figuring out what that number was and coalescing on that. So what sounds really simple is really complex in the background when you start to parse that out. The biggest institutional outcomes that we've seen while implementing Argos is really just the conversations and the working relationships between multiple stakeholders and multiple departments really come together, and that comes from our data governance committee and our data governance group. Be able to really focus in and really figure out, like, okay, where are our issues, and then identify them. There's a phrase I use all the time in my department for IT, and then also for the data governance committee is, tell me what I don't want to hear. And really, the data governance committee is all about telling everyone what they don't want to hear, because what happens if finance makes a decision about a piece of data in Banner, there are secondary and tertiary effects to that they may not realize that happen in registrar world or human resource world, and that's where these committees and the data governance committee bears that out and really has some deep conversations about data and really just data fields that really wasn't happening prior to that. I think the value of the Strategic Advisory Network is really in the power of the participants and the people. We get to collaborate and communicate amongst other stakeholders and CIOs and CTOs and people that deal with data on a daily basis at a quote high level. It's a little bit of a group therapy, right? We all have the same challenges, and we all just walk into the Zoom session and say, "Hi, my name is Len. I have a data governance problem." And everyone gets it, right? That's the beauty of it. Everyone, nowhere else can that joke resonate except for in that group. But the Strategic Advisory Network is really one about the community, right, of the participants, but it's also being able to have a direct hand in future rollouts of features for Argos, and to really put a stamp on it and say, well, I've seen some demos now and some things about the AI capabilities and the dashboarding piece, and that really a lot of the enhancements have come from pieces that we've talked about in that Strategic Advisory Network. So as an end user and as a consumer of Argos, it's good to a little bit be on the other side of the house of that. So I think for the enhancements and the features that are coming out, and I guess that was talked about this morning about this trust versus speed, right? So there are rollouts. I mean, I've seen We have other vendors where it's like, hey, you guys haven't put out an update in 18 months. What's going on? So that's good. I think another piece is the modernization piece. And on the dashboarding side, I've been doing this now for 25 years as a CIO/tech director in K-12 and higher ed. And I remember 20 years ago, a superintendent basically saying to me, I just want to be able to walk into the office, turn on my monitor, and have a dashboard of all my enrollment and everything else by schools. And that's kind of been this like holy grail for almost 20 years now of being able to provide that, at the tip of the finger type high level data for executive consumption and use, and then to be able to act on it. And I think that's the biggest piece. I mean, you can show it and it's there, but then how do you act on that to be able to make a difference? And I think that's the future potential and the power and potential of Argos and the new rollouts is to make that process easier, and thereby also allowing people like presidents and provosts that may not be as technically savvy to be able to go in there and consume, but then also consume with insights. The partnership between the Citadel and Argos really comes down to there's really no barrier between what we ask for, and we put in, we make a call or put in a ticket, but it's that pipeline, right, where we can just say, hey, it would be great if we had this, or it'd be great if we could do that. And I think that's also part of being as part of that strategic advisory network, is to be able to talk directly to the people that are creating the product and to be able to roll that into and wrap that up into a product rollout. So that barrier to entry that is just there that you don't have with other companies. I think it's about the Evisions Conference is the collaboration and the congeniality amongst everyone, right? We're all in it together. We all know this in higher ed, as mentioned, over and over again. We're very collegial and we help each other out, where that just doesn't happen in other verticals, right? I have a good friend of mine she was a executive at a search engine company, and she's now a CIO to R1 school, and she always talks about how the difference between, she would never like call up her colleague at the competitive search engine company and say, how are you guys solving this problem? That just doesn't happen, right? So the fact that, there are so many avenues by which we communicate and collaborate and help each other out is it's just different than in any other vertical. And I've always been in education. I've never been in private business or that sort of thing. It's always been in education. So in a way, I don't know any different, but I also have friends and colleagues that are in those fields, and they kind of they scratch their heads and give me a funny look when I talk about, how we communicate and collaborate. For all the whiz-bang technology that Argos delivers in terms of helping us find success at the Citadel, I think the best feature of it was really about all of us coming together and coalescing around not just the product, but the process for data governance and data collaboration and data sharing. And the big buzz phrase is, I'm going to democratize the data. Well, that's all great and well and good, but at the end of the day, you really need to trust the people that have that data in their hands, right, and what they are going to do with it. So we needed to then really establish what are the guardrails around, so if you run a report in Argos, that is not for public consumption or public reporting to iPads, or in South Carolina we have CHE, right? Or if you have a board for your school, if the business school has a board that they have, a foundation board, well, the dean can't take a report from Argos, give it to them, because it hasn't been vetted and validated, right? But prior to bringing Argos on board and prior to our data governance setup, that was happening. So it really, I would say, closed the loop on a lot of things that were out there that were just kind of flying around. People were using data and they just didn't know what they had, and they didn't know how to use it properly. For the person that is really evaluating and on the fence about Argos, the biggest thing I would tell them is that look past just the product, and you really need to see the people behind the product and the community behind the product. And I think that is where Evisions and Argos shines. The product's there. The product will always just continue to get better. But at the end of the day, you're purchasing not a product, you're purchasing a relationship. And the other phrase that I use all the time is we paid 100% for the product, right? We should be able to get 100% utilization or as close to 100% utilization out of that product and value, right? In higher ed, we don't have a lot of KPIs on knowing like what's a value, like what is success, right? Like what makes an Argos implementation successful, what makes us using Argos, better as an institution. And I really think that it's the whole ecosystem, including the people at Evisions, the support, and then also the ability to really just dig in and find those little nuggets of data that are at your institution, and really, again, back to being able to pivot and make decisions off of those, and then also coalesce around that data governance piece. I've been through so many different iterations of products across my career, right? And I can go, there's all your competitors that are out there, and we all know who they are. I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to that relationship that we have with Evisions and Argos, and the ability for us to really hone in and look at and talk to customer service and to talk to the engineers and have that, that frictionless conversation about what our needs are. And I know that, everyone brings their own needs to the table, and that's a really tough position for the company to be in, is that you get 1,000 different opinions out there and 1,000 different customers. But I know there are themes, right, that happen. And I think that's the biggest piece, is to be able to have that, just that low friction ability to work with folks here at Evisions.